Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we break down the nitty-gritty of corporate filings and see if the Emperor has any clothes left. Today, we're diving into Invesco Real Estate Income Trust Incorporated's proxy statement. And let me tell you, it might not be as exciting as watching paint dry, but there are some juicy bits hidden in here, especially when it comes to who is running the show and how much they're getting paid. So what we have here is basically a guide for shareholders on how to vote at their upcoming annual meeting. Think of it as the company's request for your permission to keep doing what they're doing, and a chance for you to say yay or nay. We're going to look at who wants to be on the board, who is checking the accounting books, and a peek behind the curtain at how Invesco Real Estate Income Trust Incorporated operates. First up, let's talk leadership. The company is proposing R. Scott Dennis to continue serving as chair of the board and chief executive officer. He's been in that role since 2019 and has over 32 years in real estate investment. The filing highlights his experience, saying he's been involved in over $90 billion of real estate investments. That's a lot of buildings. They also mention a letter from him to shareholders, where he talks about electing 7 directors and ratifying PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP as their accounting firm. Pretty standard stuff for a company preparing for its annual meeting. Then we have Stephanie Holder, who was appointed as a director in August 2025. She is a managing director at Invesco Real Estate, responsible for dispositions and financing nationwide. Her background is in commercial real estate and finance, bringing valuable industry experience to the board. Now, a key point for shareholders is how these directors are elected. They need to be elected annually by a majority of votes cast. This means your vote really does matter when it comes to who is steering the ship. It is not just a rubber stamp process. When we look at the director nominees, we see a range of experience. We have R. Scott Dennis, the CEO and chair, with deep real estate investment experience. Then there is Julie Arrowsmith, appointed in July 2025, with a strong finance and accounting background, including a stint as CEO of G6 Hospitality Incorporated. Stephanie Holder, as we mentioned, brings financing and disposition expertise. David Kelly, the lead independent director, has over 35 years of investment experience. Paul S. Michaels has over 40 years in real estate transactions. J. Ray Nixon also brings extensive investment industry experience, and Paul E. Rosie adds legal and governance expertise with a lot of board experience across various companies. It looks like they are trying to cover all their bases with this slate of directors. A crucial aspect of good corporate governance is director independence. Invesco Real Estate Income Trust Incorporated states that its corporate governance guidelines require a majority of the board members to be independent. They define an independent director as someone who has not been associated with Invesco or its advisor for the past 2 years. This is important because independent directors are supposed to represent the interests of all shareholders, not just management or the company itself. The board has determined that R. David Kelly J., Ray Nixon, Paul E. Rosie, and Julie Arrowsmith are indeed independent directors. The company also has corporate governance guidelines available on its website. It sounds like they take this pretty seriously, with regular executive sessions of independent directors without management present. They even have a lead independent director to act as a liaison. This is a good sign that they are trying to maintain a balance of power and oversight. Their board leadership structure combines the chair and CEO roles with R. Scott Dennis. They explain that they believe this structure works best for them at this time, and that the decision to combine or separate these roles can vary from company to company. What is interesting is that they appoint a lead independent director because the chair is not an independent director. This is a common practice to ensure a strong voice for independent directors when the top leadership roles are combined. Now, let us shift gears to the financials and the auditors. The company is asking shareholders to ratify the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLPWC as their independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending the 31st of December 2025. PwC audited their financial statements for 2024 and 2023. We see a breakdown of the fees paid to PwC for 2024. The company paid $807,000 for audit fees, $2,000 for audit-related fees, and $325,000 for tax fees, totaling $1,134,000. In 2023, it was similar, $867,000 for audit, $2,000 for audit related, and $284,000 for tax, totaling $1,153,000. It is good to see the audit fees remain relatively stable year over year. The company has a pretty robust pre-approval process for all services provided by the independent auditor designed to ensure PwC. S independence is not compromised. The audit committee, which is comprised entirely of independent directors, has reviewed the audited financial statements with both management and PwC. They've had discussions about independence and have recommended to the board that the financial statements be included in the company's annual report. This is standard procedure, but it is the audit committee's role to be the shareholders' watchdog when it comes to financial reporting. Julie Arrowsmith is specifically noted as being qualified as an audit committee financial expert, which is a critical role. Looking at who owns the company, Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company is the largest shareholder, holding about 65.4% of the outstanding shares as of the 8th of September 2025. That is a significant stake and suggests MassMutual has a lot of influence. First Trust Capital Management LP holds about 8.9%, and Invesco Advisors Incorporated, the company S-own advisor, holds around 6.3%. It is not uncommon for an advisor to hold a stake, but it is good to see a significant portion owned by outside investors as well. A big part of how this company operates is through its advisory agreement with Invesco Advisors Incorporated. This agreement basically outsources the day-to-day management of the company's business. The advisor handles sourcing, evaluating, and monitoring investments, as well as managing acquisitions, financing, and dispositions of assets. They even manage a DST program where interests in Delaware statutory trusts are sold to accredited investors. Now, let S get to the money side of things. The company pays its advisor a management fee. For most share classes, it is 1.0% of NAV annually calculated and payable monthly. They will not pay a management fee on Class E shares. They also get a fee for selling interests in the DST program. On top of that, there is a performance participation interest for Invesco REIT Special Limited Partner, Incorporated, an indirect subsidiary of Invesco. This means the advisor gets a slice of the profits, 12.5% of the total return, subject to a 6% hurdle rate. For Class N units, it is 10% of the total return with a 7% hurdle. It is essentially a performance bonus for the advisor. Interestingly, for the year ended the 31st of December 2024, the special limited partner did not earn a performance participation interest. That is good news for shareholders, meaning the company S Performance didn't hit the threshold for that bonus. MassMutual is a significant player here, owning a large chunk of the company. S common stock, they committed to purchasing a substantial amount of Class N common stock and have specific repurchase rights, meaning the company is obligated to buy back a certain amount of MassMutual shares starting in 2026. They also got registration rights, allowing them to require the company to register their shares for sale under certain conditions. This highlights the close relationship between Invesco Real Estate Income Trust Incorporated and MassMutual. When we look at security ownership for management, it's pretty small. R. Scott Dennis, the CEO and chair, owns 9,418 shares. R. David Kelly, the lead independent director, owns 10,644 shares. Paul S. Michaels has 36,849 shares, and J. Ray Nixon has 14,991 shares. Even when you add up all the directors and executive officers, they collectively own less than 1% of the company, S common stock. This is typical for externally managed companies where the executive's compensation comes primarily from the advisor, not directly from share ownership in the company itself. However, it does mean that the majority of their economic interest is aligned with the success of Invesco Advisors Incorporated rather than solely with the performance of Invesco Real Estate Income Trust Incorporated. Overall, what we are seeing is a company with a clear governance structure, where the board is trying to ensure independence and oversight. The reliance on an external advisor is standard in this industry, but it comes with associated fees and potential conflicts of interest that shareholders need to be aware of. The significant stake held by MassMutual and the defined relationship with Invesco Advisors Incorporated are key factors to consider. The financials, while not explicitly detailed in a table here for deep dive, seem to be managed in a way that the advisor did earn performance fees in the last reported year, which is a good sign for efficiency from a shareholder perspective. The board composition appears solid, with a mix of industry experience and independence. So, what is the verdict? Invesco Real Estate Income Trust Incorporated appears to be operating with a solid governance framework, aiming for transparency and shareholder accountability. The dual role of chair and CEO balanced by a lead independent director is a common strategy. The company S reliance on its advisor is a core part of its model, and the fee structure, including performance participation, is detailed. The influence of MassMutual is a significant factor shaping some of the company S obligations and rights. While the direct ownership by management is low, the overall governance and oversight structures seem to be in place to protect shareholder interests. Alright, that is our breakdown of Invesco Real Estate Income Trust Incorporated S-Proxy statement. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company? Do you think the board has the right balance of independence and experience? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord community linked in the description for more discussions and insights. Thanks for watching. See you next time.